Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving deep into a single, really powerful verse from the Quran. It's this incredible invitation to look at the world around us, the sky, the ocean, the ground, not just as stuff that's there, but as signs that are filled with meaning. And really, that's the big question, isn't it? The verse we're digging into doesn't just state a belief and tell you to accept it. Instead, it presents a whole series of things we can all see and observe, and then it asks us to really think about them as evidence, as signs pointing to a deliberate creator. So, where does this grand tour of creation even start? Well, it begins at the biggest scale you can possibly imagine, the cosmos itself. The verse kicks things off by pointing our attention to the fundamental building blocks of our entire reality. So here's the opening line. And it's an invitation, really, to just stop for a second and consider the fact that, well, that any of this exists at all. The very fact that there is a universe, that there's a planet, that there's this intricate system of stars and galaxies, this is presented as the very first sign. It's asking us to contemplate the incredible order in everything. I mean, just think about it. The laws of physics that just work, the planets that follow their orbits so perfectly. The verse suggests that this amazing, intricate design isn't just a happy accident, but a deliberate act of creation. Okay, so from the gigantic scale of outer space, the focus zooms right back here to our world and to something we experience every single day, the simple yet profound cycle of night and day. I mean, what's so special about a sunrise or a sunset, right? We see it all the time. But the verse highlights its incredible reliability. This constant, predictable pattern governs everything: our sleep, our work, the entire ecosystem. It's presented as a sign of a stable, managed system. It's a mercy, really, that provides the kind of consistency life needs to even exist. All right, so we've gone from the cosmic to the planetary, and now the perspective shifts again, this time right down to the human level. The next set of signs aren't just things to look at from a distance, they're things that directly benefit us right here, right now. And this next one might seem like a bit of a random jump, right? We're going from the cosmos to a ship, but the connection it's making here is actually so interesting because it links the natural world directly to what we humans do. And that partnership, that synergy, that's the sign. We use our intelligence to build a vessel, but it's the fundamental laws of physics, like buoyancy and wind, that make the whole thing possible. The verse is basically pointing out how this divinely ordered world allows for, and even supports, human ingenuity and prosperity. And sticking with that theme of things that directly benefit us, we get to maybe the most vital element of all: water. The verse points up to the sky, to the rain, as another profound and direct sign of this care. And this rain, well, it isn't just about water. It's the key that unlocks what is maybe the most dramatic transformation mentioned in the whole verse, a miracle that we get to see happen over and over again. The verse lays it out like a simple three-step process. First, the rain comes down from the sky. Second, the ground, which looked totally barren and lifeless, springs to life. And finally, from that renewed earth, countless creatures come out and spread across the land. Just picture a parched, cracked desert after a huge downpour, or a frozen landscape as it thaws in the spring. This constant cycle of what looks like death and then a sudden rebirth is presented as a powerful, recurring demonstration of creative power happening right in front of our eyes. Okay, so from that very visible miracle of life springing up from the ground, the verse now asks us to think about the things we can't see, the invisible systems working in our atmosphere that make it all possible. So it points to two final signs, the winds and the clouds. But here's the thing, it doesn't just say, hey, look at the wind. The language it uses is very specific, and it implies that these things have a purpose, that they are under control. Yeah, the specific Arabic term it uses for wind here is key. It says tasrif al-riyah, which means so much more than just wind. It implies the directing, the channeling, and the management of the winds. It's describing a global system that circulates weather, pollinates plants, and sustains whole ecosystems. In other words, it's wind with a job to do. And it's the same thing with the clouds. They're described as musakhar. It's a really cool word that means something has been subjected or compelled to serve a function. So the image you get is of these clouds being held in the sky, carrying tons and tons of water, almost like they're following a specific command, releasing it only when and where it's needed. So after this incredible tour, all the way from distant galaxies down to raindrops and wind patterns, the verse brings it all home with a really powerful conclusion. So let's just quickly run through that list again. The verses laid out 8 distinct observable signs for us. We started with the immense scale of the heavens and earth, then the daily rhythm of night and day. We saw how nature benefits us through ships and rain, watched the dead earth come back to life, and finally considered the unseen forces of wind and clouds. You see how each one kind of builds on the last? It paints this amazing picture of a totally interconnected world. And then comes the punchline. All of these phenomena, these grand systems and subtle cycles, are described as signs. But they are signs for a specific group, a people who use reason. Now that is so important. This isn't a call for blind faith. It's the exact opposite. It's an explicit invitation to engage our intellect. The verse is essentially saying, look at the world, study its systems, understand how they work, and then apply your reason to see what it all points to.
And that really leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? This verse transforms the entire world into a book that's just waiting to be read. So whether it's the clouds moving overhead, the cycle of the sun, or just the simple act of rain on the ground, that invitation is always open. What sign will you stop and think about today?